Hillcrest Academy was one of the most prestigious schools in the city, with a modern campus filled with massive buildings and latest facilities. Children from the wealthiest families attended there, dressed in perfectly pressed uniforms and carrying the latest gadgets. It was a place where status mattered more than intelligence, and where power belonged to those who could command attention. It was here that Tamara Okafor was newly enrolled. However, unlike the others, Tamara did not care for power. She walked through the school gates in her simple but neat uniform with a confident posture. She was quiet but extremely beautiful, and that was what made people stop and take a second look at her. The moment she stepped onto the school compound, the air changed. Students pointed at her, whispering among themselves, "Who is she? I heard she just transferred. Look at her skin. It's so fine and smooth. She looks like a model." But while the students whispered, the boys stared. A group of senior boys stood near the school basketball court, watching as she passed. David Okon, the school's most popular student and the captain of the basketball team, leaned against the fence with his eyes fixed on Tamara. "She's different. There is something about her," David drooled. His best friend Kene laughed. "You're already interested. Pamela will kill you." Pamela, that name was enough to shift the atmosphere. Pamela Williams was the reigning queen of Hillcrest and had been the most admired girl in school since she arrived 3 years ago. She had wealth, beauty, and influence, but above all, she had an iron grip on the girls and the boys. And David was hers, or at least that's what she believed. As Tamara walked past the boys, David caught her eyes and smiled. Tamara barely reacted. She barely blinked, uninterested, before walking into the school building. David raised his eyebrows. Kenen laughed at him. "Ouch, she didn't even look at you twice." David smirked. "Well, that makes her even more interesting." However, what they did not know was that this small moment of attention had already sealed Tamara's fate in the school, because someone else was watching and she was not happy. It didn't take long for Tamara to realize that she had enemies. The first sign was subtle. During her first class, her pen mysteriously went missing. She had just placed it on her desk, yet when she reached for it, it was gone. She frowned and looked around, while the students giggled, exchanging knowing glances. However, from then on, the torment grew bolder. On one particular occasion, she went to the cafeteria for lunch, paid for her food, and found an empty table to sit at. But the moment she took a bite, something slimy slipped into her mouth. She froze. The cafeteria went silent, waiting for her reaction. Tamara slowly pulled out the object from her mouth. It was a dead lizard. Some students screamed out in shock, while others burst into laughter. Pamela, who was sitting at the far end of the room with her group of girls, smirked. "Oops, looks like someone has bad luck." Tamara didn't react the way they expected. She didn't scream, neither did she cry. She knew exactly who did this and who had been throwing all the several attacks on her since she came to that school. So she simply picked up her tray, stood up, and walked straight to Pamela's table. The entire cafeteria went silent. Pamela raised an eyebrow, pretending to be indifferent. Tamara leaned forward and placed her hands on the table. "You think this is funny?" Tamara asked. Her voice was too calm. Pamela smiled, but it was forced. "Relax, new girl. It was just a joke." Tamara stared at her for a long moment. Then she picked up Pamela's untouched bottle of water. Before anyone could react, she poured it all onto Pamela's plate of food. Everyone froze in shock. Pamela got up from her seat, furious. "How dare you!" But Tamara simply turned and walked away. For the first time in her life, Pamela had been humiliated, and she wasn't going to let it slide. That night, in Pamela's private WhatsApp group named the Queen's Circle, the girls planned their next move. Pamela's fingers typed aggressively. "She's too confident. We need to break her." Linda agreed. "What should we do?" Pamela paused to think. Then she typed, "Let us lock her in the abandoned toilets." A slow smile spread across her lips. It was the perfect plan, and by Monday, Tamara would know exactly who she was messing with. Tamara returned home that weekend, but her mind was still clouded with everything that had happened at school since she resumed. Within just 7 weeks, she had seen enough humiliation, and it was all too much. She barely spoke as she entered the house, such that she greeted her mother absent-mindedly before heading straight to her room. Her mother had raised her to be confident, bold, and outspoken. But that evening, she saw something in her daughter's face that she had never seen before. She saw fear. Later that night, as Tamara sat at the dinner table, pushing her food around with her spoon, her mother narrowed her eyes. "Tamara, what is it?" she asked gently. Tamara hesitated. "It's nothing, Mom," she murmured. Her mother sighed. "Nothing? My daughter, who normally eats like a lioness, has suddenly lost her appetite, and you say it is nothing. Tell me the truth." Tamara's hands clenched the spoon. Then she slowly looked up. "I'm being bullied," she confessed. Her mother's entire body stiffened. "What?" Tamara swallowed hard. "Some girls at school, they hate me. They keep trying to humiliate me, and it's really bad. I don't even know what they will do next. I'm scared." Tamara's mother was silent for a long time before taking Tamara's hands in hers. She looked at her seriously. "Tamara, there is something I have never told you." Tamara frowned. "What is it, Mom?" Her mother inhaled deeply. "You are not an ordinary girl." Tamara looked confused. Her mother continued, "You come from a long bloodline of people with great spiritual power. Our ancestors were powerful seers and warriors who could control things with just their minds." Tamara's lips opened in shock. "I don't understand." Her mother looked deep into Tamara's eyes. "You have gifts, Tamara. Powers that you don't even know about. And whenever you are angry or in trouble, there is a word you must say, a mystery word that will unlock your power." Tamara leaned forward curiously. "What is the word?" Her mother's eyes changed as she whispered, "Omechiri." Tamara felt a strange sensation crawl up her skin. Her mother smiled softly. "Whenever you say that word, help will come. Whatever you want, just conceive it in your mind and you will see the results instantly." Tamara sat still, absorbing everything. Was this really true? She nodded slowly, still shocked. "Good," her mother said, "but remember, do not use it carelessly." When Tamara returned to school on Monday, she felt uncomfortable. She could feel the eyes on her and the whispers that followed her as she walked through the halls. She knew they were planning something already, but she didn't know what. Later that afternoon, Pamela's right-hand girl, Linda, approached Tamara with a friendly smile. "Hey, Tamara," she said sweetly. Tamara raised an eyebrow. She did not trust this girl. "What do you want?" Tamara asked bluntly. Linda pouted. Must I always want something? We actually need your help. Tamara crossed her arms. With what? "There is a girl trapped in the old toilet," Linda explained, "and we can't get the door open. She's crying. Please, can you help us?" Tamara hesitated. Something felt off, but she also knew that if a student was truly trapped, then she couldn't ignore it, so she followed them. But as soon as she stepped into the abandoned toilet, they pushed her further and shut the door behind her. Tamara was shocked and confused. She banged on the door, only to realize that they had locked her inside. Was it their plan? She banged harder on the door. "Let me out!" But Pamela's cruel laughter rang from the other side. "Have fun, new girl," she mocked. "Maybe by tomorrow you will understand who runs the school. That is if you are still alive by then." Then they walked away. Tamara was left alone in the abandoned place, and no matter how hard she screamed, no one could hear her because the students have been warned to stay away from that area. Tamara sat on the cold, damp floor of the abandoned toilet for hours. The air was thick and stale, and she forced herself to breathe. She had been locked in for hours with no hope of help. At first, she had screamed, banged on the door, and begged for help, but no one came. She was really trapped. Her breathing soon became shallow, her hands felt weak, and her vision blurred. "Is this how it ends?" she thought. "Am I going to die in this place?" Then, suddenly, her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "Whenever you are in trouble, say the word." The word, yes! Tamara inhaled sharply. Then, with her last ounce of strength, she whispered, "Omechiri." At first, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, a strong wave of cold wind swept through the room. Tamara froze. She could feel something in the air, something powerful. Then, right before her eyes, the rusty lock on the door began to shake violently, and the door unlocked itself. Tamara's body went stiff as she watched. Then an unseen ghostly hand, pushed the door open. Tamara immediately rose to her feet. She was finally free. She stepped out and looked left and right. The school compound was dark and empty. She looked back at the open door from where she had escaped. What just happened? Then, slowly, a smile formed on her lips. If what her mother said was true, then she was far from powerless. Pamela and her friends thought they had won, but they had no idea what was coming for them. The night was quiet in Hillcrest Academy's girls' hostel. The students were asleep, unaware of the dark presence moving silently through the halls. Tamara stood outside Pamela's dormitory. She could hear them inside, laughing and talking. They had no clue that their worst nightmare was about to begin. Tamara closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. Conceive it in your mind and you will see the results. She pictured fear, chaos, torment, and suffering. Then she exhaled. Inside the dormitory, the air suddenly turned ice cold. Pamela, Linda, and Jessica shivered. "Why is it so cold?" Linda whispered, rubbing her arms. Jessica frowned. "Did someone leave the window open?" Pamela sighed and got up to check, but the windows were shut. Then the light went off and came on by itself at the same time. Pamela froze as she saw a dark shadow pass across the room and move near the doorway. The girls gasped. Then, in one terrifying second, Tamara stepped into the light. She stood tall, unharmed, and smiling. Pamela's blood ran cold. Tamara, she stammered. How did you? Tamara tilted her head. You thought I was gone, right? Linda grabbed Jessica's arm in fear, while Pamela took a step backward. Tamara took a step forward, and her eyes radiated of something dark. She smiled. I liked your games. Now, let's play mine. She turned to leave, but as she stepped away, she conjured a thought. In her mind, she saw them fighting. And then, at that same moment, Pamela slapped Linda across the face. Linda screamed and punched Jessica. Jessica grabbed Pamela by the hair and dragged her down. They attacked each other like wild animals, while Tamara walked down the hall smiling. The fun was just getting started. That same night, Pamela woke up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat. Her room was too quiet. She sat up, trying to shake off the feeling of nervousness. She looked at the clock. It was 3 a.m. Her mouth felt dry, so she reached for her bedside water bottle. Then she saw the mirror. There was something wrong with her reflection. Pamela's body froze. Her reflection was smiling at her, but Pamela was not smiling. Her breathing stopped for some seconds. She turned her head away from the mirror, but when she looked back, her reflection was still looking at her and still smiling. Pamela's heart pounded violently. Then her reflection spoke. You think you can escape me? Pamela screamed. She grabbed a pillow and threw it at the mirror, but the reflection didn't break. Instead, it stepped out of the mirror. Pamela jumped out of bed and stumbled backward. The figure walked towards her with red glowing eyes. Run, Pamela, it whispered. Pamela let out a piercing scream and fainted. Meanwhile, the next day, Linda sat alone in the classroom after school, packing her books into her bag. She had been feeling off all day, tired, dizzy, and paranoid. She just wanted to go home. But as she zipped her bag, she heard a low, chilling whisper. Linda. She froze. Her hands shook as she slowly turned her head, but there was no one there. The classroom was empty. The whisper came again. Linda, you will pay for what you did. Linda screamed and ran out of the classroom, but the whispers followed her. You cannot escape me. I am watching you. You will suffer. Tears flowed down from Linda's face as she ran through the empty halls. When she reached the hostel, she locked herself in her room shivering. But even in the silence of her room, she still heard the voices. The walls were whispering her name. She blocked her ears, crying, "Make it stop, please, make it stop." As for Jessica, she had barely slept for 2 days. Her body felt weak and her mind was foggy. She sat on her bed in the hostel, trying to calm herself. "It's just my imagination," she whispered to herself. "It is not real." Suddenly, the bed started shaking. Jessica jumped up, terrified. Her pillows and blankets fell off the bed. The air turned freezing cold, and then something grabbed her ankle. A hand, a dark, lifeless hand. Jessica screamed. The hand pulled her, dragging her off the bed. She struggled, kicking and screaming, but more hands appeared. Cold, invisible hands gripped her arms, her legs, and her waist. They dragged her towards the dark corner of the room. Jessica cried and begged, struggling to break free. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The hands disappeared and the room fell silent. Jessica ran outside crying. She didn't care about anything anymore. She just wanted to leave. She wanted to run. And that was exactly what she did. Not only her anyway. In just 1 week of mysterious torments, Pamela, Linda, and Jessica were broken. They had stopped talking to each other. They barely came out of their rooms, and they didn't even attend class anymore. Their classmates soon noticed. What is wrong with Pamela and her friends? They look like they've been dining with ghosts. I thought it was only me. I heard Pamela crying last night. The rumor spread throughout the school. Pamela couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed her phone and called her father desperately. "Daddy, I want to leave the school." Her father was shocked. "Leave? Pamela, you begged me to send you there. What is going on?" Pamela's voice broke. "Please, Daddy, I can't stay here anymore. Please." Linda and Jessica called their parents too, and by Saturday morning, the 3 girls had packed their bags. Before sunrise, they left Hillcrest Academy, never to return. On Monday morning, Tamara walked into the cafeteria with her head held high. The moment she entered, she could hear the gossips. Pamela and her friends suddenly disappeared, and no one knows why. Some say they were cursed or mad, something like that. Tamara sat at her usual table, calmly eating her food. She turned and smiled as she saw Pamela's old seats now empty. Hillcrest Academy now had a new queen, and no one would ever dare to challenge her again. Thank you for watching the story. Kindly share your thoughts about the story with me in the comment section. Give the story a thumbs up and share the story out with your loved ones also. Subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories. Thank you and remain blessed.